markets. Followed by Jeff June at Ischemia Care. Ischemia has blood testing for the cause of stroke. Ischemia Care offers blood testing sold into hospitals used in the routine course of care to identify and diagnose stroke patients to improve hospital economics, outcomes, clinical efficiency, and patient satisfaction. Then you'll hear from Igal Ladebaum at Hospi Corporation, a commercial stage company that has figured out how to give medicine and fluids to patients who can't take them by mouth. Their Macy catheter has already helped tens of thousands of patients facing serious or terminal illness. It is raising an incremental $3 million to fuel growth and reach break even. We will then have a 10-minute break, followed by Jim Biggins at Access Vacular. They are a Series A early commercialization company. Their first product, HydroPick, has demonstrated an average of 97% less thrombus accumulation on its surface compared to a standard polyurethane catheter, and has recently received FDA clearance for our second generation device. Then we'll have Steve Wiley at Innovega Incorporated. Steve will be presenting their smart contact lenses and glasses. Innovega has developed a new generation of patented contact lenses that, when used with its stylish, lightweight display glasses, delivers to wearers unprecedented AR/VR experiences. With more than 40 filed patents and now in the final phase of FDA trials, Innovega is well positioned to support projected growth. Our final presenter will be Andrei Chomelievsky from Asyla Diagnostics. They're developing molecular diagnostic tests to predict hyper-progressive disease in patients receiving immune checkpoint inhibitors. And finally, before we get started for today, we've got our marvelous judges joining us for Capcon. Our first judge, David Uffer, coming to us from Alira Health with over 25 years of management experience in the medical device, products, and clinical diagnostics field. He has led strategy development, strategic planning, and business development activities in these fields for mid and large cap public companies. We've got Louis A. Young, II, returning with us today. He is the managing director of Lion Chase Equities, a private equity growth accelerator that partners with select exceptionally talented and hardworking management teams of microcap firms, including startups, to buy out their competition. As an in-house growth-oriented partner, LEQ develops and executes targeted acquisition strategies that help microcap businesses achieve sustainable long-term growth. Our final judge for today, John Sebastian Enges. He's a lifelong entrepreneur. John is the founder of Phoenix Consulting Group, which provides branding, sales training, and recruiting services to Fortune 500 companies. John currently manages a staff of over 300 team members across 27 markets. He has a deep understanding of how to apply digital marketing strategies to build recurring revenue and brand loyalty. He is expert on deploying effective marketing and sales systems for rapid growth. And lastly, before we get started, here are a few things you need to know before pitching begins today. There will be no selling or service providers at this event. We do not recommend selling at our conference unless you're expressly endorsed by Capcon. We will have 2 IT techs to assist us at any point throughout the event. You've already met Amanda and Andrew. You can also reach out to Ansar, Luke, or Christine directly, or one of our ITs for support. Companies will have 5 minutes to pitch, and judges will have 5 minutes to open questions. Companies will be judged on pitch, product, team, and commercialization strategy. We ask that you be prepared for the time you present, and Christine will personally send you a message when you're up next, so please keep an eye on your chat. We'll have 2 speakers in another session room during the pitching rounds. The following speakers joining us today are Adam Dakin and Arthur Britta. Thank you so much for joining us today. Investors, please send a personal message to Ansar to coordinate and schedule a time in a company's booth or reach out to them directly. Judges, please have your score document open to your final score sheet for each company presenting today. All right, let the presenting begin. Our first company presenting with us today will be Jim Snow from Pensar Medical. This is Pensar Medical's first time joining Capcon. Welcome, Jim. Pensar Medical totes negative pressure wound therapy, which is a process of applying negative pressure or vacuum to a wound for the healing of that wound. Let's give a warm welcome to Jim. Jim, when you're ready, I will put 5 minutes on the clock.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
All right, 5 minutes starting now. Thank you, Jim.
So hopefully I don't technically screw this up when I go to the share screen. But I'm Jim Snow. I'm president, CEO, and a co-owner of Pensar Medical. We're a medical device manufacturer located in Norco, California, which is about 40 miles east of Los Angeles. We manufacture a negative pressure wound therapy system. I'm going to go to my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Everybody can see that, hopefully. Like I said, we manufacture a negative pressure wound therapy system. Trying to get it to go to the next screen here. What's negative pressure? Negative pressure is the application of a sub-atmospheric, the negative pressure, to a sealed wound dressing connected to a vacuum pump. It's basically a vacuum that pulls exudate and infected material out of a wound, which helps it to heal faster and for the wound to close. This technology has been around for about 30 years, so it's nothing new. It's just a matter of the technology for applying that suction and the negative pressure that is ever changing. Oops. Did I screw that up? The current market in negative pressure wound therapy is about $2 billion a year. And one company, which is KCI, which is now owned by 3M, holds about 90% of that business. Smith & Nephew is also holds a large share of the disposable single-use segment of this market. This has kind of created a monopolistic approach to the way KCI operates, and this has started to wear thin with customers in the market as a whole, and their highest priced rental model is costing many users way too much money.
I'm sorry.
Until now. Until
Amanda, I'm going to interrupt you. We need to readjust your slides.
oh, is it off?
It is a little bit off. Yep.
Oh, sorry about that.
You can either move that to the green frame or click on show mode. I recommend clicking on the show mode. It's the icon at the bottom, right next to the slider.
I don't know what happened there.
I'm going to help you out. Just start up your presentation again and go to show mode. Nope, don't start the share yet, please. Just start the PowerPoint and go into the show mode. That's the little slide at the bottom. View show mode.
I don't see anything.
We'll go ahead and start the share again, and I will tell you where to click. Okay, you need to move your PowerPoint into the window.
I'm not getting anything in my window.
Okay, open your PowerPoint. Okay, I need you to not share the window yet. Open your PowerPoint. There it is. Now that icon at the bottom right next to the slider, it says Notes, and then there's 3 views, and then the show mode. Nope, next one over. Right there. Thank you. And now move the green frame so it's only on the screen. So stretch out the green frame, you'll be good to go.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks.
There you are.
Anyway, the negative, let me go back to where I left off. The market's about $2 billion a year. It's dominated by one company. Until now, we've not had a solution to be able to take them on in an effective manner. But we have the solution now. Over the last 3 years, we've gone out and developed 3 new products. Up until recently, we only had one product, the Wound Pro, which is the large product you see on the back right-hand side of this photo. We developed a smaller ambulatory unit as well as 2 single-use disposable units that just have gone through FDA approval. So now we're able to handle servicing the entire continuum of care, from the acute care, the subacute, to the home care markets. So we have a solution. Typically, facilities are paying over $60 a day to rent these units. We can save them significant money by reducing the costs with our smart rental program, which is a rent-to-own program for these facilities. We have a competitive advantage based on the fact that we have a very reliable unit that's been around for 10 plus years, way beyond the typical life expectancy of these types of products. And we have now disposable units that have features and benefits far beyond what the Smith & Nephew products have. Our team consists of four gentlemen that have been in this industry for over 100 years of med tech and medical device experience. We've launched and successfully sold 6 entities with an average return ROI of 300%. Our engineer is in this industry who owns and holds 6 patents and has been involved with 10 510Ks that in this particular space. We currently have 2 more new products in development, ones that will change the industry. One has the ability to sense and alert providers of an infection, never before used in negative pressure, and a revolutionary new system that will enable any facility to offer negative pressure wound therapy to their patients at significantly lower costs. Typically, they're paying over $50 a day. We can do it for pennies, which will save these facilities a significant amount of money beyond what they've been able to save in the past. So what's in it for you? We're a well-established company. We did $2.7 million in revenue last year and $323,000 in EBITDA. And we've got a well-earned reputation of providing reliable and feature-rich products. All our products are made here in the USA, which no other company in this space can say. We have a 5-year target of $25 million and 34% EBITDA margins with a 0 debt target in 4 years. We're looking for an investment partner that will come in and invest $3.5 million to buy 65% of the company, and also provide us an additional $1.4 million to refinance some bank debt and provide us the working capital for our expansion plans. This includes launching the products, expanding our sales force, and continue the growth patterns initiatives we have for our other new products. So I have a much more detailed business plan, obviously, to this that is available. If you'd like to see it, just let me know. I'd be glad to send it to you.
All right.
I want to thank you. I'm sorry if I screwed up the presentation there, but thanks very much. You can reach, that's my cell phone number or my email. I look forward to talking to as many of you as possible in the very near future.
All right. Thank you, Jim. We will now bring judges into the room to ask questions. Judges, are you ready to ask questions for Jim? If so, I will put 5 minutes on the clock. David, Lewis, Sebastian. Hi, Lewis.
Hi,
Lewis,
Jim.
ready? Great.
Hi,
5
Jim.
minutes on the clock.
Hi, Lewis.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Great presentation. I'd like to ask about, you mentioned that your solution would have applications, data-driven application to identify wound infections. Could you talk a little bit about that and your plans for data integration?
Yeah, it's a very early stage product. You know, we've spent the last 3 years really getting through the 3 new products that I mentioned through the FDA. Now we have 2 new products that will that we kind of a back of the envelope, you know, type of thing. But that particular dressing, there are dressings out there that can help detect infection. We're looking at partnering with a couple of companies that we've been in discussions with to add that to negative pressure. When you have a wound that is being cleaned out through negative pressure, sometimes infections happen. When you're changing the dressings 2-3 times a week, and the sooner we can detect infections through changes in pH and heat, mainly, the better off that patient will be, and the quicker that wound will close.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jim. This is Dave Uffer. little bit close to home for me, and that led the due diligence that led to 3M's acquisition of $7 billion of Acelity. So I
Right.
know the space intimately. Tell me about, you've got two multi-billion-dollar companies that you're going to try to compete with that, as you know, dominate negative pressure wound therapy. Two-pronged question. How are you going to compete with them in the marketplace? And then can you follow on and talk specifically about a distribution model that you're going to pursue?
Well, they're the 1,000-pound gorillas in the room, but we've tried to do one step better. KCI has a very, very high-priced product line. They've always been the highest priced out there, and they've done that and be able to sustain that through intimidation of the various users of their product. So we've come up with a lower price rent-to-own process that will allow these facilities to own the products that they typically will rent at a much cheaper rate. But we also know that we need to team and have a strategic partnership with another major healthcare company out there. That may not necessarily a box mover per se, but we need to be able to partner with a strategic partner that has the relationships out there with the hospitals, with the subacute facilities, and now that we have a full product line, we'll be able to join the GPOs that control most of the product going into the hospitals, even subacute facilities. Also, our disposable single-use patient products called the microdocs, we have teamed that up with a dressing that is what they call self-adaptive. It will allow the wound to, as the wound changes and adjusts, the dressing adjusts to that wound, and whether it needs more moisture, less moisture, something that Smith & Nephew, which does over $125 million a year with their product, cannot do. So again, we're providing a better product than is currently being used in the industry at a price point that will be very competitive and do something that's different than our competitors. It's not to say we've got a long way to go with going after these customers, and that's why we need additional financing so we can broaden our sales footprint, number of sales reps we have in the field, and work at getting more distributors. We currently have over 75 distributors across the country and in 14 countries that distribute our products, but we need more.
All right, judges, any other questions?
I just have one for you, Jim. Why would somebody opt to not use your product over the current competition?
There's about 7 or 8 manufacturers of products similar to ours. But like I said earlier, up to now, we've not had any opportunity to have a full breadth of products. You know, the full service acute care, a subacute, more portable device, as well as the disposables. So we've tried to improve. We've spent 3 years improving on these products, trying to get a broader range of products that we now have. And I think as we were able to introduce those into the marketplace, by the way, these FDA approvals just came within the last 30 days. So we're still in the early throes of developing the distribution of these products and the launching of these products. And so we feel we've done one step better. Of course, KCI, and David, you mentioned you know them pretty intimately. They have been the 1,000-pound gorilla that comes out with a new product every 12 months. And they've, I think, really intimidated many of the hospitals to continue to use their products. And if they don't, they basically, shame them into continuing to use their products because they've been around the longest, and, make them feel like they can't live without them. And it's a significant barrier for us to overcome, but I know we can. In the end, hospitals need to save money. We have a plan on how to do that.
Great. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Jim.
much, Jim. Wonderful presentation. Judges, please mark your score sheets. Robert Isaacs, please get ready to present after this brief announcement. I'd like to just remind everyone that the breakout booths are open all day. Jim Snow, who you just saw present, has a booth. Dr. Deischer at AVM Biotechnology, who presented yesterday, also has a booth, so you may go see her presentation if you weren't here yesterday or ask further questions. Stephanie Latner at WeVibin and Phil Smith and Tony Materna at Discovery DX also have a booth. And please, presenters, keep an eye on your booth to see if there are people there. If you're not there to man the booth, they have no one to speak to. Thank you. All right, our second presenting company joining us today is Robert Isaacs from TrackX. TrackX is a medical instrument tracking company concentrating on the spine and orthopedic markets. They have created a simple, easy-to-use alternative to conventional image guidance and robotic solutions. Their product is FDA cleared, patent protected, has generated early revenue, has been awarded Best New Technology in Spine by Becker's Orthopedics, and has been the subject of a couple of randomized trials which show significant OR time savings and radiation reduction. TrackX is run by an experienced team that has designed, cleared, and successfully exited several other products in the broader computer-assisted surgery space. Let's give a warm welcome to Robert Isaacs. Robert, you ready? I'll put 5 minutes on the clock.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Robert. My name is Robert Isaacs, and I'm representing TrackX Technologies. TrackX is medical GPS. Essentially, we have allow orthopedic surgeons to track their surgical instruments during X-ray guided medical interventions without the high radiation exposure. We're FDA cleared, patent protected, run by a team with multiple exits in this space. I have strong strategic relationships and nicely growing revenue. 17 million, the most common medical procedures performed in the United States each year are fluoroscopically guided. They're X-ray guided. These include angioplasty, stents, setting a broken bone, doing a spine fusion, you name it. Ubiquitous procedures throughout medicine use a fluoroscope. And it's become inherent in medicine. The problem is that the radiation associated with these procedures is potentially catastrophic. I can tell you as a formerly minimally invasive spine surgeon that a 50% rate of cataract formation, a 2 to 3 times higher rate of cancer than another surgeon type is a problem, a major issue. And in fact, the FDA has called it one of the biggest problems in the entire healthcare space. The commonly accepted solution for this is computer-assisted surgery. That's navigation, robotics, image guidance, and the like, all put together. And strategics have been investing literally billions into this space to essentially supplant the fluoroscope, get rid of it. And despite 25 years of trying, at least in terms of orthopedics, it makes surgeons incredibly inefficient. It adds 30 minutes or more to OR time, and it takes away their ability for surgeons to confirm what they're doing in real time, which is inherent to how these procedures are done. And so while certainly tens of thousands of procedures each year use computer assistance, over 1 million cases, orthopedic cases, use fluoroscopy. It's quick, it's easy to use in every hospital in the country, and it allows you to check and see that you're doing is correct at all times. And so rather than try to supplant the fluoroscope, we at TrackX decided we were going to be the first and now only FDA cleared product that can literally link up a standard fluoroscope in with the standard navigation backbone. And that in essence is TrackX. And we've done this before. We're a team of that have successfully built and exited with Bendini and more recently with Lesray. And so the group that made Lesray, which included myself, I was 12 years director of spine surgery at Duke University. Donna B. Tillman ran the Office of Device Exemption for the FDA. Mike Beck wrote the original patents for image guidance. We've added significant capabilities, including sales. This year, adding Ray Okovec as VP of Sales from Peter and Motec. Our system works as follows. We take a cap and a collar, 2 pieces of plastic, and add it onto the standard fluoroscope that's in your hospital. We consign that along with a camera and a computer system. Essentially, that's what we're placing for free in your hospital. What we sell are widgets, sterile prepackaged disposable snaps, these black things. We call them snaps. They snap onto the instrument of your choice, and now that instrument can be tracked in our software. That instrument can be seen by our software. And so when you take a picture of it, now an X-ray, now this is all virtual. You can see how the instrument moves throughout the body as you move your hand. More importantly, though, is that whenever you're ready, take an X-ray, and that's a real X-ray. It told you that not only are we telling you the truth, and you can confirm, but you're also recalibrating your system from scratch. each time you take an x-ray, which amounts to a tremendous amount of radiation savings, over 90% in this randomized control trial, while at the same time decreasing the time of surgery 25 minutes in this randomized control trial, which at over $100 a minute for OR time is $2,500 or more cost savings to the hospital, which offsets our costs, about $1,800 per procedure, which is directly on par with every other system on the market. The difference is, remember, we're consigning systems for free, as opposed to the industry norm, which is to charge people $1 million up front or require millions of dollars of hardware concessions in order to place a system. And we're actively selling this, essentially at this point, focused in the Southeast using independent distribution, essentially only focused on spine at the moment. At the same time, we're in discussions with mid-cap orthopedic companies, call them sub-billion-dollar market cap companies, to help distribute our product. We currently have a distribution deal, a non-exclusive distribution deal with the fastest growing publicly traded spine implant company in the country to lease systems from us and guarantee us a certain amount of revenue per lease system. And despite launching in Q2 of this year, so far we're on track to beat our projections of $2.4 million this year, and we already have over $3 million of revenue for next. We have 4 issued patents and broad FDA clearance, and to date we've done that with $6 million. We're actively in the midst of raising our Series B, $5 million, which our strategic partner has already committed, as have others. Essentially, this round is geared towards commercialization, as well as some CapEx that were required in order to help further commercialize. In essence, you're watching a TrackX case to the right, but we're an interesting and unique computer-assisted surgery platform that is looking to attack the rest of the market that's being currently completely avoided by the other systems that are out there. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Wonderful presentation. All right, Jeff June, you're on deck. Please be prepared to present after this next judging session. We will now open questions from the judges. Judges, when you're ready, I've got 5 minutes on the clock.
Thank you for your time. Is there a specific target audience that you think would have a great, tremendous use? I know you identified spinal surgery, but within that subgroup, that subpopulation, who are the individuals that that this system would most greatly help? And I want to understand that target demographic a little bit better, if you could.
Our go-to is minimally invasive spine surgeons who are fluoroscopically based right now, who generally they're high volume, more private practice, smaller hospital based physicians. That's the people we go after, ones that are thinking more in terms of ASC rather than academic practice. Although the Harry Schuffelberger, who is he's literally the best known scoliosis surgeon in the country, academic, operates on children. It's all open surgery. He's using our stuff. So it's not just those people, but that's our target right there. That's who we address initially.
Thank you.
Rob, you showed a $50 cost of goods. What about the capital that you place at no charge?
It's about 30,000, just over, depends on if it's a 9-inch or a 12-inch serum.
And that you absorb that pretty quickly at $1,800 a procedure with only $50 cost of goods, right? Is that $50 cost of goods for a case or per instrument that you put out your snap on?
Our snaps are designed to be universal, to pop on and off of instruments so that you can use them, hopefully one snap to do a multitude of instruments throughout a procedure, often just one for an entire procedure. And yes, we're actually closer to $20 or $30 on average, but we want to get under 50 per snap, all in.
So this is an open platform where you can integrate with any device. Do you have to validate each individual, or it's assumed with the configuration of the device and whatever trajectory you're taking that it marries with your pre and during procedure imaging?
We have a calibration step that is baked into how we do this which is done initially. And that is how we cleared the FDA with this kind of universal platform idea.
So that it can even be done with the first assist or anybody doing the setup, not the clinician during the case, or would that be calibrated during the case?
No, that's the design. So the design is that you can actively calibrate while the surgeon's operating. So it takes up a small corner in the top part of the screen so that the surgeon can continue to keep working while you can put on new instruments and introduce new things on the fly.
Great.
Hi,
Is
Rob.
this a,
Go ahead.
go ahead, please.
Go ahead, David, if you're finished.
The only question was, is this only of its kind? I'm very familiar with a lot of the robotic systems, and yes, very costly, and you get tied into a surgeon using a non-preferred, if you will, at times, implant or device. Tell me a little bit about that. Is this the only of its kind with this type of non-capital requirement?
There are, we're certainly the minority. There's no one big in the market that is not specifically owned by a big and therefore literally targeted to use their implants. Augmetics has come in with a universal platform as well recently. They just cleared the FDA a little while ago, but they're a very different segment of the computer-assisted surgery space.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob, that was going to be my question. Who's your competition in that space? Is there somebody else with a similar product? The follow-up to that would be, what are the barriers for adoption? What would slow the growth here? Why would somebody be hesitant to use this device?
So actually, to answer the broader answer to your first question is there's kind of two extremes to who we compete against. I would argue three maybe. One is the higher end product, the robots and the very cumbersome products. There's a market for those, and actually it's easier for us not to compete against them, to feel free to let them have a certain segment of the market. There's just people who just don't want to do anything. They don't mind getting exposed to the radiation, and education helps with that. The trend in the market right now is to move towards it. So that helps us tremendously. And then there are some other players that are coming in that are looking to play into these niches. We are really they're still taking this three-dimensional, very cumbersome approach, as opposed to our take on the situation, which is fluoro is the answer. Is just get rid of the problems associated with fluoro. Don't get rid of fluoro. I forgot your second question you asked, and I apologize.
The second question is just barrier to entry. What would be the hesitancy? She kind of answered, but maybe just to clarify, what would be the hesitancy in adopting a product like this? It seems in many ways to be a no-brainer. You're minimizing exposure to radiation, and you're getting a better experience for everybody, cost savings. Why would somebody say no?
Inertia is certainly something we compete against. We compete against cost. Everyone is looking for different ways of making things. And so we really do come at them with time savings, and that's actually resonates well because radiation is important, but to get through a hospital and get through VAC committees and the like, you really do need to actually offer more than just the health concerns of their patients and their staff. But yes, it's an educational thing, and it's getting people comfortable with using technology when many people we're going after are really those that are have historically been adverse to taking on new technology.
All right, that's been 5 minutes. Unless there are any further questions, judges?
I just asked Rob, amazing technology. If you had to say primary is precision, safety, or time savings, safety for the clinician, what would you think the primary interest would be?
It depends on who I'm talking to. To the clinicians, it's time all day long. It really resonates. To the hospitals, it's time a little bit, but it's radiation and to get through the nursing committees and the radiation safety committees and the safety committees, it's radiation. But more and more people are being forced to use this type of device because of the latter, which we didn't even mention, which is accuracy. There's a innate assumption that you need to have something to help you out. So,
okay, wonderful, really nice job, Rob.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for your valuable time with us today, Rob. And thank you, judges. Please mark your score sheets. Our third presenting company joining us today is Jeff June from Ischemia Care. This is Jeff June's third consecutive time joining us at Capcon. Jeff is also a previous winner of Capcon. Ischemia is blood testing for the cause of stroke. They offer blood testing sold into hospitals used in the routine course of care to identify and diagnose stroke patients to improve hospital economics, outcomes, clinical efficiency, and patient satisfaction. Ischemia Care leverages proprietary clinical and biological data to commercialize blood testing and digital solutions to manage chronic patients. Let's give a warm welcome to Jeff June. Jeff, loving the suit.
Thank you. You always got to bring your A game, I say.
Love it. Okay, Jeff, when you're ready, 5 minutes on the clock. Take it away.
All right. Can you see my screen all right?
We sure can.
All right. So I'm Jeff June, and Ischemia Care is commercializing blood tests for stroke and its causes. Basically, it's blood testing covering 2 million emergency room visits and $1 billion in revenue each year. We've been top 5 in MedTech Innovator for execution. We are top company in Capcon 2 and 3. We were recently recognized as a MedTech Emerging Growth Company. We're a top diagnostic company in Invest Midwest, and this is possibly our last funding round prior to a large exit. My background is I have IPO experience, a $95 million exit, 10 years in venture capital and private equity, and I have served as a professor and chair in entrepreneurship and engineering. So a little bit about the company. We completed a 1,700 patient trial. We have the first blood test in market for stroke ever to complete a regulatory process. We've conducted initial pilots to demonstrate clinical use and payment model. And as mentioned, we're a great platform, experienced team, and very strong clinically at what we do. So stroke is a very large and complex problem. You have a stroke that occurs. It's very important to determine the cause to prevent another stroke. So there's 2 million emergency room visits for stroke symptoms that result in about 695,000 strokes. But 40% of these strokes never have a cause determined, and it leads to a very high recurrence rate. So as you kind of move through the right, the identification of cause leads to guideline-based care. And the problem is that determining the cause of stroke is often very complex, expensive, and inconclusive. So evaluations remain variable and prone to misinterpretation. So our simple solution is this really easy blood test for hospitals to adopt. The blood is drawn in the emergency room setting. This test provides a binary result into cardioembolic and large artery atherosclerotic, which is 2 major causes of stroke. And our testing is paid for out of existing hospital DRGs, so there's no separate payment that's needed. So I'll give you an example of one result of our test, which would be cardioembolic. So atrial fibrillation is a cardioembolic cause of stroke. These cryptogenics or unknowns with undetected AFib are at a 5 times greater likelihood for recurrent stroke. But if you identify the atrial fibrillation, you get a 60% risk reduction, So here's our testing performance compared to our competition. So as you can see, we have 85% accuracy in our analytical validation. And on the right is implantable cardiac monitoring, which was recently discovered to have an 86% false positive rate in detecting AFib in these cryptogenic populations. So if you do the math, 86% false positive is 14% accuracy. We have very strong clinical evidence. We completed enrollment in a 1,700 patient trial. This is led by guideline authors and KOLs at 20 major hospital systems. And it generated this incredible pipeline of testing that we're bringing into the market over the next year that covers close to 3 million patients. We have validated our commercial strategy. So on the left are our indications, and basically every test, we have clinical data and IP. We validate this through our own clinical trial. We beta the test, we pilot it, we launch it, and we achieve payment for these tests. So here's a real life example of how our early pilot supports our clinical and payment model. So at Kettering Hospital, we were able to demonstrate that we change care, are incredibly cost effective, and we also drive downstream revenue for the hospital system. So our IP and patents, we have 24 patents, both US and internationally. But I think most importantly, we've developed these proprietary development, clinical trial, and laboratory methodology. Our technology was based upon very heavily funded NIH research, which demonstrated changes in blood due to stroke, and we validated this in our laboratory. We've got an incredibly strong leadership team that's capable of taking our team to an exit. Our investment summary is that we've raised $12.2 million to date. And now, just by comparables, other diagnostic companies raised over $100 million to reach similar milestones. We're seeking to raise $7 to $10 million, which will continue to grow and scale our company. So here's an example of revenue for our first product. So with this fundraising, we believe that we'll take this single product to 50 million in revenue. And then each product that follows will have a similar trajectory. So we believe we have very high strategic value and exit potential. So keep in mind that we're in front of 34 billion in spend. So there's the traditional laboratory exit, but also for companies like Boston Scientific and Abbott, we drive revenue for them. And there's been multiple exits in excess of $1 billion in the cancer space, and we're the only company in stroke. So ultimately what we provide is this solution to manage these chronic patients. We leverage both biological and clinical data, provide this solution to ongoingly manage these chronically diseased patients. So in summary, if you're more of a technical person, really what we've done is we've developed the world's largest comprehensive library of clinical and molecular data, and we're the only company in the world to ever use molecular data in stroke to deliver precision care. So with that said, I thank you for your time.
And Jeff June timing himself at exactly 5.
Like I said, you always got to bring your A game.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, that was a wonderful presentation. We appreciate your valuable insight today. Igal Ladabam, you're on deck. Please be prepared and ready to present after this judging session. We will now open questions from the judges. Judges, are you ready? I will put 5 minutes on the clock. Whoever would like to start.
Did I miss your revenue slide? Great presentation and great product. Did I miss your revenue slide?
Yes, it went a little quick, so I apologize. So our revenue slide is that we are just entering market now. And so we're in this 6-month period where we're bringing on 10 hospitals. And so we view that, call it in our first to second year, we target 1 to 8 million in revenue. Second to third year, 25 million in revenue, and then 50 million. And that's for our one single product. We are bringing on 5 additional products.
Sorry, is this 2021? I'm having problem with this first year of the revenue because I need to know which year is that the starting point.
2021 is the starting.
And you're projecting $1 to $2 million, you said, revenue.
Yes, in the first 12 months while we bring on 10 hospitals to make sure that we scale appropriately.
Okay. And what was the previous, the cap or the previous round pre-money valuation?
The post money on 12.2 million raised was $28 million.
28.
And so that's our post money, and comparable companies raised 60 to 100 million to get to where we are.
Okay.
Jeff, congrats on your previous win. Nice presentation as always. Tell a little bit more about the commercial model and how you're going to achieve those revenues in 21-22.
Sounds great. So we actually just had a call with a strategic on this very topic. I think what's important about ischemia care is that not only are we the only company to develop RNA expression testing in stroke, but we've been in over 20 hospital systems. That includes over 100 hospitals. So think about that you have to understand how you generate the clinical demand and how hospitals purchase things. And so basically what we do is that we work with the clinician, we work with the hospital administration, and we work with the payers in these markets. So one thing that's not in the presentation is that while we're paid for under the DRG today, if you're familiar with how devices get paid for, we've actually filed an NTAP application as well. And so short term, we pay for under the DRG. Longer term, we continue to work with payers to get separate payment for what we do. But the commercialization is really based upon selling a product into the hospital, just like a device company would sell a bone saw or something like that.
And how will you fund and drive the sales into the facilities?
So that's why we're funded. That's why we're raising 5 to 10 million. Is that we've already built kind of the infrastructure and the sales processes. So really, it's just a matter of executing on this testing.
So that would be through direct sales force.
Oh yes, through direct sales. Thank you. Sorry. But in the short term, there may be we may be working with a major company that sells into hospitals as well. So, you know, being the way that we're capitalized so efficiently, we really have a lot of options to consider.
Super.
Thank you.
Judges, do we have any remaining questions?
Guess if he's got another 30 seconds or so, you talked about your initial test. Go ahead and show off a few of the others that you're going to do beyond stroke.
I would absolutely love to. So actually this week, we are presenting groundbreaking data at the Society for Interventional and Vascular Neurologists, which is one of the big stroke conferences in the world. So Dan Miller is presenting data on our point of care stroke test. This is absolutely going to change the game in stroke. So, when we launched, we wanted to understand stroke from the inside out, where there was this need and unknown stroke. But really the goal was to bring in this testing to identify all patients that present in the emergency room. So knowing whether a stroke occurred or not, knowing things that are often confused with stroke. So imagine anybody that shows up with dizziness, weakness, unconscious, we can determine whether they had a stroke or not, and really the best treatment pathway for that patient. So thank you for asking. It's incredibly exciting what we're doing. This is a huge week for us. That's why I'm wearing the suit. It's got to be ready at that conference too.
Nice layup toss for you.
Thank you.
I have one question for you in terms of where you see the market going, and in terms of you talked about getting to causation, right? And so, how can we better get to causation, and how does that align with your growth path in terms of testing in hospitals and those that present themselves in the ER?
I think that's a great question. And I think really the great answer is that what we're doing is that we really want to commoditize stroke care. We want to drive an excessive amount of cost out of the system and make blood testing standard of care. Today, there are no simple blood tests or ways that you can identify stroke and what causes it. And if your question is how we determine it, is that basically we built this incredible library that's based on all the research that went into our intellectual property. And now we've created this massive database on top of it. So there really isn't any question that we can't answer in stroke. It's really, and I think the thing that's so unique about us is that we push so hard commercially to get testing into the market so that we can understand how clinicians would use it. And I think where a lot of companies make mistakes is they'll build the perfect product, but they'll never ask a clinician how they would use it. And I think that we've really balanced all those factors of how do we drive cost out of the system? How do we make it so cheap that there's no way that you wouldn't use this on every patient? And how do we make it meaningful that the result that we give, to your point, really drives a cause-driven, clinically evidence-based outcome?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you, Jeff June. Judges, please take the time to write your marks on your score sheets. Our fourth presenting company joining us today is Val Lauterbach from Hospi Corporation. This is Hospi Corporation's second time joining us today at Capcon. Thank you so much. And we've got Igal Lauterbach. He's the CEO and co-founder of Hospi. Igal is a medical device entrepreneur whose most recent exit was the $200 million acquisition of InSound, a hearing aid company. Now at Hospi, a company that makes rectal administration of medication discreet and dignified, Igal will sometimes quip that he went from the ear to the rear. Hospi is in its early commercial stage and is raising an incremental $3 million to fuel growth and get to break even. Let's give a warm welcome to Igal Lauterbach. Igal, when you're ready.
Thank you, Leah, for that very LA introduction. And again, my name's Igal Lauterbach, CEO of Hospi, and I'm here to talk to you today about the company I co-founded with Brad Macy, a clinician inventor, to address a significant and highly prevalent clinical need. And that is, how do you give fluids and medications to patients who can't take them by mouth? And you see, Brad won the Hospice and Palliative Care Nurse of the Year award because for decades, he helped keep patients comfortable when they faced serious or terminal illness. And it turns out that near the end of life, everybody loses the ability to swallow, some for a few days, some for a few weeks. And beyond just end-of-life care, there's transient loss of the oral route in palliative care, where there are 6 million patients who are candidates for that, say with a bout of nausea and vomiting. And the point is that no existing alternate routes can control symptoms without delay. taking patients to the IV setting or an IV to the patient setting is really suboptimal in this post-acute situation. And the point here is that even beyond hospice and palliative care, there are lots of folks with difficult vascular access. And so administering fluids and medications is a good and big business. VitaCare, which pioneered a bone drill to administer fluids and medications, built a $55 million business that exited to Teleflex for $285 million, and now is a $100 million division. Now, sometimes it's best to let others just do your talking for you. And this is a thank you note we recently received. It says, thank you for the Macy Catheter Bedside Care Kit, because this kit allowed my husband of 61 years to spend his final days at home. This was from a Kaiser member, and she was very grateful. From one idea executed, many have found comfort. Again, we are an early commercial stage company. The point is we have a lot of data and clinical feedback. We've used it on tens of thousands of patients, allowing them to be comfortable, and are at marquee programs. We also are in distribution with Cardinal, McKesson, and Medline, some of the key distributors in the space. So what do? I think Leah introduced that. We utilize the known benefits of the rectal route, which should be a first-line alternative, but it's underutilized because it's impractical and not dignified. And we transform this route by using an indwelling catheter that does not violate the patient's privacy at every dose, and you don't need to disturb the patient. And we do have robust and issued patents pending. Why does the rectal route work so fast? The distal third of the rectum happens to be a near perfect place to administer medications. It's absorbed very quickly and does not pass through the liver's first pass effect. We can get into more of these details for those who are interested. Again, a fairly busy slide, but the point is to show that the rectal route is a very versatile route of medication administration. Compared to other alternate routes, IV being, of course, our primary competitor, but with different challenges of safety, cost, and complexity. This is one of my favorite slides, but it's just a teaser due to the time limitations. This is how I think as an entrepreneur of building a business as a systematic reduction of risk. We're focused here in these market segments. These are fully discounted addressable market sizes, and there are adjacent markets that'll lead to investor size returns, though even in this conservative space, we reach break even and have good exit potential. Again, a bit of a teaser slide to get into more detail. Things get interesting in about 3 years from a 5x type of multiple exit potential. And this shows you how we think systematically of the market segments and the headcount that supports those types of revenues. We have a very capable team. I'm a Stanford and Berkeley educated, experienced entrepreneur. Brad is a leader in the hospice and palliative care field. Rich Pop introduced Brad and I together, and he helped to start the Stanford Biodesign program and has been a friend and mentor. Ricardo Rosenkrantz is our chairman, invests some family money. His dad brought to market the contraceptive pill, of all things. And Eric is a seasoned sales professional, and Tabitha as well on implementation and training. And so nearing the end of the time here, I'll just close with the investment opportunity. Which is, we have 3 million of room left in our Series B preferred. Even under the conservative scenario of those modest market sizes, because of an attractive valuation and low capitalization, that represents a 24 IRR. And this is our last round. We'll hit break even, and then any rounds beyond that would be optional. With that, I will hand it back for questions.
All right. Thank you, Igal, for a wonderful presentation. We appreciate you participating today and your valuable insight. After this next judging session, we'll take a quick 15-minute booth, breakout bathroom, and speaker room break. Jim Biggins, you're on deck after our 15-minute booth breakout room break, so please be ready to present after our scheduled networking time. I'd like to remind you that you'll be able to speak to Jim Snow from Pensar Medical, Dr. Deisher from AVM Biotechnology, and Stephanie Latner, Phil, and Tony all have booth breakout rooms as well. They presented yesterday. So if you're interested in seeing any further presentations, please go to their rooms because you did not have a chance to see them today. All right, judges, I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. When you're ready, take it away. Don't all go at once, please.
Yigal, talk about the reconstitution and administration of particular compounds, and is this standard or do they need to be validated?
Yeah, thanks, David. Good question. So we have accessories in the kit with the MACI catheter. One is our patent pending liquid pill system, which is a pill grinder. I won't clutter with sharing the screen, but that allows you to take oral medication at the bedside and create a suspension or a slurry, because obviously this is a microenema administration of medications. And it's up to the prescriber to administer the compound and the route of administration. In our initial markets of hospice and palliative and sort of thing, it's fairly routine to try to access the rectal route, but it's underutilized and it doesn't work that well. So we have a literature summary of all the kinds of medication references and bioavailability, but as a device company, not a drug device company, we have to be careful and just provide the education, but don't market specific drugs with the catheter.
Well, while most of the drugs have been approved for oral administration, are there any regulatory issues, or are there any considerations? I mean, is this where you can deliver 90% of the typical meds through rectal administration, or it's still again up to the clinician to make that decision?
Yeah, it's up to an educated clinician to make the decision, and we'll try to educate those who aren't familiar with the rectal route. There are certain medications that are not absorbed well rectally, and there are certain ones that have slightly different dosing profiles. But that's also by design why we started in the hospice and palliative care field, where you titrate to dose anyway for symptom relief. And so we find that hasn't been an issue at all in that market segment.
I have a question for you. So you mentioned that it helps this also helps hospice patients to remain comfortable. How are you able to measure, quantify comfort? And then with that being the case, also at the end of life, it was my understanding that lots of patients tend to lose control in that region. So how does that help with easing the types of administrative work that lots of nursing home attendees may have to deal with as well, between
Sure.
switching out catheters, et cetera?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So the first part was, how do we measure comfort? And some of the patients are not communicative if they're really close to end of life, meaning verbally communicative, but the nurses measure a variety of pain scales and or comfort scales. And so we have a lot of surveys and testimonials from both caregivers and nurses that demonstrate the palliative effect, and you just see people relax and become comfortable. So it's fairly self-evident when folks are comfortable, and they can rate their pain scales, for example. So I don't think that's terribly difficult to measure. It's almost self-evident. With regard to the second part of the question, which was, don't people, lose control or become incontinent? Interestingly, it's actually the opposite, because they often have medication regimes that constipate. And furthermore, remember, we use this when people's oral routes compromised, which means they're not able to consume lots of food or drink. And so they're not going very often. Now, the device will be, it doesn't create an obstruction. It's meant to be expelled if it needs to be expelled, and then it would be reinserted. But fewer than five, and even in a non-end of life patient, this would be when somebody has nausea and vomiting or otherwise can't take medication by mouth. So it's kind of aligned in that way, right? Obviously, if somebody has dysentery or terrible diarrhea, and I realize it's the lunchtime talk, so you're welcome, but they won't be able to. That would be a contraindication.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yigal, I appreciate your presentation. I have a kind of a two-pronged question here. What about the hospice space made it a prime kind of first to market area for you? And then what is your overall commercial strategy for bringing this out? You said that, there's a certain level of education that goes into people opting to use the rectal route. What is your strategy to make sure that happens?
Yeah, good question. So first, hospice, one, domain expertise with my co-founder, Brad Macy, right? The other, absolute no-brainer, because this is the place where people, A, lose the ability to swallow, just about everybody, and B, face symptom control crises, and C, want to be at home, surrounded by loved ones. So it meets all of the goals. It's also a $19 billion industry, right? Taking care of 1.5 million patients a year near the end of life. And so both the humanitarian as well as the business aligned there. And it's a place that's already familiar to a certain degree with the rectal route, even though it's underutilized. So hopefully that helps answer that question. And by design, we wanted to achieve excellence in sort of a center circle and then expand around that. So a close cousin is skilled nursing facilities where a lot of hospice patients reside, and also where people are not end of life, but might be vulnerable. Who wants grandma to go back to the emergency room just because she's a little dehydrated? You can hydrate with the catheter, hydrate, she resurrects, oral route comes back, we're all good. All terrible things happen when the elderly go to the emergency room unnecessarily. And then beyond that, any bridge to IV with difficult vascular access or upon, for example, discharge from the hospital. So there's all kinds of readmission pressure to avoid readmissions, which hydration is important. For example, we're doing a case series with Stanford post-bladder cancer surgery to keep folks hydrated so they don't come back, right, in those situations. Now, you asked about our strategy. This goes, maybe we'll talk after the conference, because digital marketing is a key piece of it, right? We need to educate the marketplace and make it be a more accepted route of administration. And that's why the sequence is so important. We're not raising tens of millions of dollars to go educate everybody, right? We want to hit break even and then sort of guerrilla warfare, one market segment at a time.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. If there are no further questions, we will end the judging session for today, judges. Any further questions? All right. Thank you. Please mark your score sheets, and thank you, Yigal, for a wonderful presentation. We will now take a 15-minute booth break. If you'd like to ask additional questions to any of the presenting companies you've seen today or have not yet had a chance to meet, please head to their breakout rooms or message them directly if they do not have a breakout room. Additionally, if you'd like to schedule a meeting with a company presenting today or that was present yesterday, please either message Ansar in the chat or head to the Capcon communications room for further assistance. We'll begin our second presenter session in 15 minutes at 1:25 p.m. with Jim Biggins. Thank you. And if you're having trouble accessing the breakout rooms, please see the chat where Andrew from Tech has placed instructions on how to access the breakout rooms. Again, you should see down below 4 little squares that say breakout rooms. If not, possibly a button that says more dot 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 and then breakout rooms. If neither of those pop up, you will have to upload the newest version of Zoom. There is a link in the chat. It takes 2 seconds. Yep, as Andrew says in the chat, right now is a perfect moment to update your Zoom very quickly if you can't access the breakout rooms. Otherwise, you'll join a breakout room by hovering over the number that you see and then hitting join. And when you'd like to leave that room, you can just say leave meeting, and then it'll go to leave breakout room instead of leave meeting, essentially. Otherwise, you'll have to log back in. So just leave breakout room. Thank you so much. For those of you just joining us, we are now currently in a booth breakout room break. We'll be back at 1:25 for more pitching sessions. You can access the booth breakout rooms on the bottom of your screen where it says breakout rooms and meet with most of the presenters you saw today and some of the presenters that presented yesterday. Thank you.
Leah.
Yes. Hello? We will resume presenting in 9 minutes. Thank you for your patience, and please go to the breakout rooms. Jim Snow, Dr. Deisher, Stephanie Latner, Phil and Tony all have breakout rooms. Thank you. We will be back in 6 minutes with more presenting. Thank you for your patience. We will begin in 2 minutes. Jim Biggins, you are on deck. Thank you, everyone. Okay, it is now 1:25. Let me see if all the judges are here. All right, please wait one moment while we get one of our other judges. Amanda just private messaged you. Thank you. We'll get started in just a second, folks. All right, everyone is here. Fabulous. Thank you. Our fifth presenter joining us today is Jim Biggins from Access Vascular. This is Access Vascular's second time joining us at Capcon. Access Vascular created the HydroPick, which has demonstrated an average of 97% less thrombus accumulation on its surface compared to a standard polyurethane catheter, and has received FDA clearance for their second generation device. They have begun commercializing this novel technology to pre-qualified hospital systems. They are developing a suite of venous access devices that use a new patented biomaterial which is designed to prevent the most common and costly complications in the 4.4 billion global venous access market. Let's give a warm welcome to Jim. Jim, when you're ready, 5 minutes on the clock. No worries. Take your time. Just let me know.
There you go. Yep. So I'm ready to go.
Okay, great. 5 minutes on the clock. Thank you, Jim.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. Jim Biggins, founder, president, CEO of Access Vascular. We're actually a commercial medical device company with initial revenues on our first product, and we're actually demonstrating rapid market traction. You might be surprised to find out that 90% of all patients entering a hospital setting have some sort of intravascular device. But despite their ubiquity, they all suffer from complication rates approaching 54%. So as soon as a device gets inserted into the body, it begins to respond and most commonly forms blood clots that impact catheter functionality, or worse, can actually lead to serious and often life-threatening complications. The result of which are longer hospital stays and actually results in poor outcomes for patients, contributing significant cost to the overall medical expenses. Access Vascular is really focused on solving these issues, the most common and costly complications that plague this $4.4 billion marketplace. All of our devices are made from a proprietary hydrogel biomaterial that's highly tolerated by the body and actively prevents these complications from occurring in the first place. This enables the long-term use of intravascular devices without delaying treatment or the need for reintervention. Our first product, HydroPick, is a 4-French peripherally inserted central catheter that delivers life-saving drugs to critically ill patients. We've used our device in over 200 cases in a variety of clinical settings. And to date, we haven't seen any signs of catheter-related thrombosis, despite a number of these patients, almost 90% actually, having some sort of stage of COVID, which results in a hypercoagulative patient. This compares to commercially available devices that we're seeing about a 15% declot rate. So this gives us the confidence that we will significantly improve the outcomes for patients, significantly reduce cost for delivery, and also transform efficacy unlike any other product that's currently in the market today. After a few months of commercialization, we have at least 10 POs at this point, and we have a very healthy customer pipeline. We are leveraging a hybrid sales model that does include 1099s, which we're building out now across the country. And in addition to that, we'll support those 1099s with internal resources as we go to the market. We really see commercialization as a 2-phase approach. The initial phase, which we're currently in, we're primarily targeting venous access services, as well as regional hospitals, primarily because the barrier to convert those hospitals or centers is actually much lower. And so at the same time, we're also going to be strategically focused on clinical and economic evidence of generating that supportive data as we move forward with the hybrid model. As we begin to gain market traction, we'll then phase into the second phase of a commercialization plan and focus on more academic institutions and build out a national accounts strategy. So more of a traditional approach as the business, as the volume supports that level of business. Our approach into this market really is to focus on value-based and clinically based evidence to support our higher value add. So that's really the core of our overall strategy. We'll then use clinical advocacy as well as brand recognition to proliferate our other products and penetrate further into the market. We see a huge opportunity to address IV-related complications by offering clinically superior products into these large markets that actually really suffer from lagging technology. We have the platform technology can be proliferated into other spaces. So all of the markets that you see listed, we do have application in, and that addresses the $4.4 billion market in total. We have 16 people on staff in Bedford, Massachusetts, all have experience taking products from concept through commercialization. Our internal team is supported by a seasoned group of medical device executives. Most recently, we added Dr. Michael Joff as an independent board member. He's world-renowned for vascular health as a vascular health expert and has also been a hospital administrator. We're currently looking for $5 million as a bridge to Series B. And really that's buying the company additional sales traction, also finishing developing our clinical and economic data, which is well on its way to being developed. We have 2 ongoing studies, and we're continue to build that commercialization and distribution channel. And then the final thing would be to round out our product portfolio with midlines and dual lumen. One thing to note is that we already submitted to the FDA for a midline product, and we should be hearing before the end of the year. In summary, the business is really managed by startup medical device professionals with a track record of bringing novel products to the market. We're coupling that with a strong IP portfolio that on a versatile platform that addresses the biggest clinical needs in a $4.4 billion market. We've demonstrated our ability to build value for our shareholders by hitting milestones and getting devices approved. And we're really looking for investors that care passionately about the problems that we're solving and will help us to grow our business moving forward. So thank you. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Jim. We appreciate your valuable insight today. Steve Wiley, you're now on deck. Please be ready to present after this judging session. We will now open questions from the judges. Judges, if you're ready, I will put 5 minutes on the clock. David or Lewis?
Nice presentation, Jim. Thanks. You talked about some of the clinical complications. Tell me a little bit about the differentiation in the technology versus what is standard of care and utilized in a massive market, $6 billion growing to $6 billion market.
Yeah, this market is very sleepy, right? So any technology, clearly we didn't invent the problem, and the problem has been in existence for a while. 100% of devices, to our knowledge, are made from the same material. People have tried to sort of add additives and try to address the problems by cloaking the material. And really, the way that we're differentiating ourselves is we take a completely different approach, right? It's not polyurethane with an additive. It's a completely novel approach and novel material to this application. And so we're not talking about an incremental improvement on the acceptance of the body to this material. It's really just a completely different approach. And so that's really what gives us a confidence that we have something that's market shifting in respect to the overall clinical outcome, which is something that is clearly understood by the market today, right? When we go to pitch our product, no one ever says that's not a problem or we don't have that problem. It's really, let me see what you got and let's try it out. So, that's really what we're talking about is transforming these procedures.
Okay.
And Lewis?
Yes. You talk about receptivity and of your product by comparison. So what are your plans to be able to harness that, to harness user customer feedback within your sales cycle? And how are you collecting that information and how are you using it to stay on azimuth accordingly?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part.
How are you using that information, that customer and user feedback, to drive and generate sales leads and to grow that sales pipeline?
Yeah, as you know, it's a little less straightforward in medical device, right? We can't necessarily survey outcomes and ask physicians to report on those outcomes. And so we are teaming up with a number of clinicians to do retrospective studies, which we are in the process. We already got IRB approval on one of them, and then that's 120 units that will do a retrospective study. And the hope is that we can leverage the voices of these clinical experts or the people that are using our product to do podium discussions, white papers, things of that nature to really drive additional adoption. So where we can find clinical partners in the early adopters, we plan to leverage those relationships to build either retrospective or prospective data and build that little vignettes here and there in terms of the overall outcomes and specific points that resonate with clinicians.
Thank you.
All right, judges.
Just one more question. Jim, you talked about POs and accessing facilities. A lot of this goes through GPOs. Tell me a little bit about getting on contract that predominates a lot of this segment.
Yeah, so I think a little bit of some of that is a misnomer, right? I think people like to paint these things in broad brush strokes, and there's nothing, there's no real consistency from what we can tell in terms of who actually adheres to GPOs and who doesn't, right? I think most hospitals that we interact with are actually on 2 or 3 GPO agreements, so sort of contradicting the entire purpose. So so I think, in order to capture entire hospital system, you're probably asking the right question in terms of our ability to penetrate and having a full product suite, which we don't have yet. So we have specifically chosen to focus on vascular mobile services, which make up about 30% of the market. And their conversion time can be as little as a week, right? We do a presentation with them, they're convinced, and they can buy, if we're talking to the CEO of the PIC services company, they can make a PO the next day. And so that's where you saw the phase 1 and phase 2 approach. Academic centers are completely different, right? They have to go through the VAC committee and most often through the GPO system. Mm-hmm. So over time, we would then penetrate those accounts, but really sticking to, hospitals that don't have that same pathway, and certainly the mobile services. And then even with the academic centers, we find that they can buy about 20% off contract. So we might not convert the entire account, but we can certainly get the high risk patients and also charge a higher ASP because we're specifically tailoring our offering to the highest risk patients.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, if there are no further questions, fabulous. Thank you so much, Jim.
Great, thank you.
Of course, and judges, please take the time to mark your score sheets. Our sixth presenting company joining us today is Steve Wiley at Innovega Incorporated. $64 billion of forecast AR/VR market growth will not occur until users are given display eyewear that they want to wear. Innovega has developed a new generation of patented contact lenses that, when coupled with its stylish, lightweight, smart glasses, can deliver unprecedented AR/VR experiences. With more than almost 30 US patents filed and now conducting the final phase of FDA trials, Innovega is well positioned to deliver value to consumers, workers, and patients. As an important first market, Innovega has begun designing eyewear that it expects could deliver functional sight and restore independence to a US market of 5 million low vision and legally blind patients. Steve, when you're ready, I will put 5 minutes on the clock.
Thanks, Leah.
Of course.
Would you let me know whether you have that?
I can see it. And when you're ready to go, we'll begin.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. One last thing on my side.
No problem. Steve.
Yes, thank you. Great. We're in the business of developing novel patented smart contact lenses that do more than just correct your vision. And we couple these contact lenses with display eyewear, and that delivers really an unprecedented level of display performance for our industry. We've defined patients that have impairments, visual impairment, hearing impairment, as a core market for us. And in fact, it's the market we will launch into next year. Here's our usual disclaimer. From the top, then, we're in this AR/VR business because we've developed radically different and next-gen eyewear. But again, patient markets are really focused, so we feel much more like a med tech company. What we're doing is very different in terms of approach, so it's relatively easy to write patents. As Leah mentioned, we have almost 40 patents that are domestic and international filings. Our team has built multiple companies. I've built 5 companies and exited successfully. We've received about $6 million of US government money, so non-dilutive money, profitable, that we've applied to the challenges of this project. We're in the final trial now of the FDA trials for the contact lens itself. We've raised about $10 million from strategic investors and other funds, and notably about $1 million from a key supplier, I think maybe globally, the key supplier to low vision patients. And I'll talk more about that particular category. We're opening an A round, and we're looking for interest and reservations. Our team had worked together in a company called Microvision. We built it, we exited. Company lists trades on NASDAQ, $200-300 million valuation. And we really came together looking for a new project. And we decided it should be this whole notion of smart glasses, digital eyewear. And we were excited because you have everything basically available to you. I mean, the vision system, the audio system, speech system, obviously cognitive memory functions. So it was very rich, but very difficult. And our team essentially, combined their efforts to deliver this. And I mentioned that delivering solutions to patients that are completely unserved today would be a key interest on our part. The boxes on the left-hand side, the HoloLens from Microsoft, Oculus, Facebook boxes, it's obviously not what patients need or want. And the Innovega looks a lot like this. So this is a design of a patient eyewear that we would deliver initially to the visually impaired, and over time, same product essentially to those with other impairments. The 7 features and benefits listed above, we listed those day one on a napkin. We've delivered all of them. Anyone in the industry has delivered 2 or 3 at best. Just picking one of them, a wide screen, big field of view. Why is it important? On the left-hand side, if a person is fed that, let's say it's a low vision person and you've enhanced their scene ahead of them, and on the left-hand side, they have that view. They know it's a football game. They understand the context. The leading supplier into the low vision space is the right-hand side. And if you take a quarter of that screen, on the right-hand side, you've lost all context. So we believe that we can have a significant impact in this market. Maybe this is the most important slide in the whole deck, and I should have started with it. But about a year ago, we tested 10 individuals who had severe visual impairments or were legally blind. Their average vision was 20/115, which meant you correct as much as you can on these individuals. Their sight is still 6 times worse than ours. They don't carry a smartphone because they couldn't use it anyway. What we delivered, and I'll read it down at the bottom because I don't want this to be marketing, it's just a fact. You know, our combination of wearing our contact lenses and glasses provided these patients with 20/20 vision measured at distance and near. In other words, they could look across the street, recognize a friend with full 20/20 vision. They could read a smartphone, a tablet, a book with full 20/20 vision. These were patients with severe impairments, legally blind. A go-to-market then is to launch into these patients' verticals, initially visually impaired, then other impairments, then other vertical markets, and potentially other mass markets over time. Our licensing model is fairly typical. We have licensing fees up front, prepays, investments in our company. That model is already underway. We charge NRE fees for engineering, clinical work, and there's royalties. So we receive a royalty on the glasses, but interesting, we receive a percentage on the recurring revenue from disposable contact lenses. Our lenses are monthly disposable lenses, and so we have that SaaS-like revenue stream. A milestone for us is the FDA approval of the lenses. We've worked through all of the phases. We're in the final phase. We've launched the 510K phase just over the last month, and next year we'll continue through the FDA process and look to achieve clearance. The 3 individuals here are the core management team. Myself, I could be considered marketing, financing. One of my companies was sold to Motorola, another Kodak, another Toshiba. I've had several public companies, Microvision, I mentioned, Lumera, both NASDAQ listed. The gentleman, Dr. Ledgerton, is a optometrist. He's a low vision expert. He's an entrepreneur, raised $70 million in his most recent company. They're now a world leader in the contact lens space, innovator, tons of patents. And Jay Marsh off to the right, the smartest system engineer I've ever worked with and necessary for the type of work we do. And we're blessed to have an amazing set of advisory boards, group of advisory boards. We have Shane Kim, former corporate VP Microsoft, on our board. We have a former senior AT&T executive on our board. And then we have others from Sony, Johnson & Johnson, Bausch. Down below, we have our clinical and medical board, technical board, former FDA consultants, committee members, and ophthalmic experts. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for your interest, and I'd be pleased to get your questions.
All right, Steve, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and your valuable insight today. Brant Pinvidic, our keynote speaker, you're on deck after this judging session. Please be ready to speak after it's completed. Andrei Chmelyevsky, our last presenting company of the day, please be ready to present after our keynote speaker today. We will now open questions from the judges. Judges, when you're ready, I'll put 5 minutes on the clock.
Thanks, Stephen. You mentioned the trial. What are you looking to accomplish through the trial, and what are the endpoints?
The FDA trial, the phase 3?
Yes.
Yes, we have, there's really 2 phases to it. Each phase is a 3-month trial, and each phase includes 60 subjects. The first phase is testing for material, basically comfort, safety, based on the design and the material of the lens itself. And then there's a second phase of that, if you will, or second part of that, where we add the glasses. So the second part of that is wearing our lens, wearing the glasses, testing vision for near eye. And the screens are in the glasses a ½ inch from the eye, and then testing the vision, the distance vision, and ensuring that there's no impairment. Ultimately, the market clearances for the lenses and the glasses component just facilitates the testing of the lenses.
And what is that regulatory pathway been designated as?
The first is a 510K, and the second is a de novo.
Great. When do you expect to conclude the trial?
The 510K is underway. We expect to conclude that in February of next year, and the de novo to start around the March, early April timeframe, and before the end of the year. We've got about three months, as I mentioned, of continuous testing, and then 3 months for the FDA to respond.
And then lastly, and I'll let the others jump in here, the use of proceeds again?
We generally, we spend about 50% of monies that we raise on payroll. So if we look at our budget and where it goes, about 50% payroll, probably around 20% on the FDA trials that I described, about 20% preparing a finished product, a commercial product. So that's the photograph I showed you earlier. Working with a partner. So we've selected a partner. We're collaborating now on the engineering and the preparation for the manufacturing, and then the marketing, and then the other 10-15% G&A.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. If there are
Can
no,
you talk about a little bit about where you see the pricing for the glasses and your target demographic, and how that will drive your commercialization and user adoption?
Yeah, I can say that the competitive pricing, market pricing today for glasses for low vision patients ranges from around $3,000 to $5,000. We expect to be at the low end of that. And again, that product will be branded, distributed by our strategic partner. We would look to take a royalty on that ASP, essentially. There's about 5 million low vision patients in North America, about 5 million in Europe, another 5-10 million rest of the world. And we've identified a TAM of about 350,000 of that 5 million in the US is an absolute perfect target market for us. They will wear contact lenses, can wear contact lenses, have a certain type of vision impairment, etc. So we look to launch domestically in North America. We would launch with the partner to large accounts. I mean, the VA hospital, for example, state agencies. And we would be in tandem, we'd be building out an independent optometrist network. There's about 1,100 low vision optometrists in North America. They're not active in this space at all. We know that network well, and we will work with our strategic partner to build it out. And maybe you said in terms of where that goes, that same product, that product with contact lenses, glasses, screen, and a camera, we believe would be with different software. Would be an ideal solution for the hearing impaired. Hearing impaired is about twice the size of the visually impaired. So we look to expand from the visually impaired domestically. We'll then look visually impaired Europe, rest of world. But within a year, we anticipate other modalities, hearing impaired and cognitive impairment, etc., with essentially that same platform.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will you anticipate another round of funding after this one?
Yes, I would believe that this round will take us through next year and most of the following year, and that will enable us to conclude the FDA, launch the low vision product, and all of the preliminary beta pilot work in the marketplace. As we look to expand into the hearing impaired, for example, cognitive impairment, autism and such, we would look to raise money for that purpose. I mean, it's quite possible a strategic partner would make that money available, but we're assuming that we will have to participate in that.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
all right, judges, if there are no further questions, it does not appear that there are. Thank you, Steve, for a wonderful presentation. Judges,
Thank you.
yes, please take the time to mark your score sheets. And now let's dive into our keynote speaker, Brant Pinvidic. Brant is an award-winning film director, veteran television producer, #1 best-selling author, C-level sales and presentations coach, keynote speaker, top-rated podcast host, and a columnist for Forbes. From humble beginnings in Canada, he worked his way through the ranks of Hollywood, being named to The Hollywood Reporter's 30 most powerful reality TV sellers, and earning his reputation as one of the industry's most effective and dynamic creative sales executives. Brant has sold more than 300 TV shows and movies, runs a TV network, and has helmed one of the largest production companies in the world with smash hits like The Biggest Loser, Master Chef, Extreme Makeover, and Bar Rescue. He has taken the life, business, and storytelling lessons he's developed during his Hollywood career and used them to uniquely bridge the entertainment industry and the business community. In his #1 best-selling book, The 3-Minute Rule, Brant details his simple, straightforward system that's helped hundreds, from Fortune 100 CEOs to PTA presidents, use top-level Hollywood storytelling techniques to simplify their message and pitch their business, product, or service in 3 minutes or less. Brant, we'll hear from you for 25 minutes. When you're ready, take it away.
Oh man, these are worth doing it just to hear my own intro. I mean, my God, you'd think I wrote that myself or something. So it's pretty funny. Hey, listen, thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate it. I'll make it quick, but I'm gonna go through a couple of things that I've been doing ever since I sort of left the day-to-day of television. I was a television producer for 20 years. I got involved in an investment bank completely randomly that wanted me to help their clients pitch their ideas, small cap, oil and gas, biotechs that really needed help sort of pitching their ideas clearly and concisely. And I found that wildly rewarding. So I started doing that, almost full time. What was the interesting side of it, most interesting for me, was I've been in front of the camera, I've been behind the camera. I do incredible things on a screen. In fact, I can make anything happen. I have people that worked on Avatar on my team. So, as I was training companies and showing them how to pitch, I mean, I could make anything happen. What was the most ironic thing is the one thing that I was teaching more than anything was how to be simple. Simplicity was the most valuable element I was teaching. And in fact, I keynote and speak across the country, and I literally use simple black and white text for all of my keynotes. It's because in today's world, simple is the new sexy. It is wildly compelling. And after working with literally hundreds of companies, the one phrase that I said more than anything was, just stop talking. Everybody wants to cram as much information as they can, as fast as they can, to as many people, and it has far less impact than they think. It really is today not what you want to say, it's what needs to be said. And learning that distinction is really important. And I show companies and people and audiences how to say less and get more. And this really started with a Forbes article I wrote called The 3-Minute Rule, which is what we use in Hollywood to base our edits on. It is everything's got to be done in those first 3 minutes. And that went really well. And that led me to the book itself, which is called The 3-Minute Rule. And it teaches companies and individuals how to pitch and present anything in 3 minutes. I'll give you what the rule actually is everything of value about your business, product, or service must be conveyed clearly, concisely, and accurately in 3 minutes or less. And there's some science behind that. But from an investor perspective, and I wrote the book for a wide audience, but I would say 95% of my clients are looking for money. And I've been dealing with this for the last 5 years, almost full time, and throughout my career. The one thing you have to do in this world is before they judge your presentation, they got to understand it first. It's the most important element of what I do. And that is the core of what the book walks you through, is how to create a system of pitching and presenting so that your audience understands what they're judging before they make a decision. They understand it fully, and you will have better results. So with that in mind, for this specific, I developed a couple of things that I want to walk through. I'm going to walk you through the 5 keys for raising money. These are the sort of the mistakes I see most often with the hundreds of presentations that come through my office. I will see these more than anything. The first one, number 1, is money doesn't care who you are and what you've done, right? Money is different. Consumers are different. Money is different. Money doesn't care about you unless you are absolutely crucial to the idea, to the company, and to the future. The money doesn't care about your background. There was a great article in the Atlantic about how nobility and royal bloodline is so prevalent now that there aren't enough jobs for people with royal bloodline. And it's the same thing in this country with Ivy League educations. There are so many people in the world right now that have graduated from Harvard and Stanford and MIT that those elements are almost irrelevant. And if you're using them in your pitch to go for money as one of your core, you are wasting time. I see it all the time. One of my big clients, she was the CEO of GE Small Industrial Electric Motors. She resigned that position to move to Calgary, Alberta, to take over the CEO position of a small cap Canadian company that does electric motor conversions. Now, that's strange. And when I asked her, why would you leave the CEO of GE? She said, do you know anything about electric motors? And I said, no. She goes, well, I do. So her leaving GE to take that job was absolutely crucial. I had to know what the technology was and what drove her. So unless you are absolutely part of the pitch or presentation and your background, if you were the number 5 employee at Google, or you were Twitter's head of security and you're doing a security company, don't worry about that. Same thing with board of directors. Every company I see has a board of directors of the smartest people in the history of mankind. It's not impressive anymore. It kind of blends. Money doesn't care, okay? Number 2 on my list, money hates being chased. Okay. Money wants to move towards things that move away from it, right? It's the old saying, the bank wants to lend money to people who don't need it. Okay. Money doesn't want to be pursued. It wants to do the pursuing. And what a lot of prospective companies that are looking to raise money, they showcase before they ever start pitching that they will do anything to get in the room with you. They will do anything to be near you because they need it so badly. And that makes the money the top of the food chain. And that's not what money wants. Money wants to be the one that has to beg to get in. That's its natural instinct, is it wants someone that plays hard to get. So you can't convey the desperation of doing anything to chase somebody with the money. That's a big one. Number 3 is money loves passion, but it hates promotion. And this is a very dangerous element that I see a lot of companies do, particularly those run by more A-type personalities. Not as bad when I get into the sort of the scientific world, and the medical stuff is a little bit subdued because usually those are scientists and they don't want to be big. But if you are blessed with a natural personality, you run this risk because passion is super powerful, but passion is incredibly dangerous because it can take the focus off your company and your product and your technology and your offering and make it about you. Okay. And if money feels and investors feel that you are being promotional, that you are going to say whatever you need to make this deal, you are dead in the water. That's the end of it right there. So I always tell people you should write this phrase down. And every time you go to pitch or present, you should read it before you do that. Pretty simple. The stronger your desire to achieve your objective, the more likely you will turn passion into promotion. The more you need it, the more you're going to be promotional, saying things to try to win that. That is going to do the exact opposite. I try to train my clients specifically to be passionate about their facts, not their opinions. People who are passionate about their opinions are subject to judgment and ridicule. Think about the people in your life that are wildly political right now, that are posting things on their Facebook, right or left, about their political leanings, but in an extreme way, okay? They are very passionate about their political opinions, and it makes them look like idiots. That's just the right or left, doesn't matter. And that's what it's like in a pitching and presenting for money, but that's a lot bigger stakes, is that if you are passionate about your opinions, that's a problem, okay? Number 4, money doesn't care about your feelings. Okay, I understand that you want to save the world or change the way healthcare is done in America. I get it. I know why you want to do this. You love it. Money doesn't care about that stuff. That's a bonus. Money likes to use that, but your personal feelings about that kind of stuff doesn't impact. And too many people are using that as the good. They get, like my friend Blake did Tom's shoes. So he's giving a pair of shoes away for everyone he sells. Amazing. What a wonderful guy he is. That is not how the company built that. That was a plan that he had to do, but rich Hollywood elites and celebrities were like, wow, I can feel good about this. I can use this to my advantage. Let's invest in this company because he can still make money, right? It wasn't about that he wanted to do good. It was about using the ability to do good to make a great company. So be very careful that you don't put that front and center. I understand you want to fight global warming and climate change and change the world, but you need to show money how it's going to take its friends and hold it dear and be kind to it, and then bring it back with a bunch of its friends to help you. That's what money wants, right? Number 5, money actually doesn't care about the cost to get in or the return. It's surprising, but people don't understand that. money wants to be where it wants to be. You have to make it want to get there first. If it understands it and it wants to be involved, an investor wants to be involved, the idea of how much they got to spend and what the return on their investment is, not as crucial as you would think, because that can be negotiated, that can be acquired, that can be changed, all of those things. But if you can make the investor and money want to get there first, then all of these other things happen. There are too much emphasis on what your deal structure is and your convertible note and the way you're going to allocate these shares. That is fine, but it's not necessary. And as you'll see with the judges, they all going to have questions anyways about your prospectus and what you're offering and how much money you have, all that kind of thing, and where you're going to use it. Those are secondary concerns. The very first thing money wants to know is, what is it and how does it work? Very good example. One of my partners, dear friends, runs the largest fund in the world dedicated to human longevity. They spend billions of dollars acquiring companies and pharmaceuticals dedicated to human longevity. Greg Bailey, who runs it, maybe the smartest person I've ever met in my life. He's a scientist. He's a board certified doctor. He has run public companies, exited many times. I send him things that come through that are interesting. I have to distill it into 2 or 3 lines, or he won't even open the attachment, okay? Because he wants the simplified version first. Imagine you trying to send it to him. I send it to him and he won't open the attachment if it isn't simplified the concept. I never put in the email, they're looking for $12 million and a 4% convertible note. Never. I only put what the concept is. This is an Alzheimer's therapy drug using stem cells. If he's interested in that world, he'll open it, start to learn, and then he will ask about the cost or the return. So don't include that in the upfront. Focus your attention, focus your ability on making what you do and why you do it and why it's unique at the top of the conceptual tree. Everything will work out after that. And that's at my core what I do with the book, is I teach people how to deal in that side of pitching and presenting their elements. And I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I'm easy to find. You can find me at Brant Pinvidic at any of the socials, and you can go to my website at any time, 3minuterule.com or brantpinvidic.com. Always happy to help, always looking at new companies, always interested in seeing what people are doing and connecting dots. And that's what I do.
Thank you, Brant, for a wonderful keynote presentation. That was excellent. We will now head into our last presenter for today, Andrei Humelievsky. But before we head into our final judging session, I'd like to remind you that the booths will be open for most of the presenters you saw today. And if you'd like to make an appointment to meet with anyone at the conference, please contact Ansar, Luke, or Christine, or the presenter directly. Before we finish for today, we'll be hearing from our amazing Capcon organizer, Frank Aziz, who will be speaking on how to achieve your goals using social media. All right, now let's dive into our final presenting company for today. We have Andrei Humelievsky from Asila Diagnostics. They're developing molecular diagnostics tests to predict hyperprogressive disease in patients receiving immune checkpoint inhibitors. HPD leads to the rapid mortality of patients and is an unmet clinical need. Asila's AI-powered intelligent platform and knowledge base for discovery and development of molecular biomarkers allow predicting safety risks for all solid tumors targeted by immunotherapy. I will put 5 minutes on the clock. Andrei, when you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Can you see my slides?
We can see your slides, and I will put 5 minutes on the clock now. Thank you, Andrei.
Asila is an early-stage molecular diagnostic company with the goal to make cancer immunotherapy safe and effective by selecting right treatment for the patient. Immunotherapy is one of the best cancer treatment, adopting clinic like a storm. But did you know that 1 out of 6 patients have a high risk of dying from this treatment 3 times quicker? And this is because syndrome called hyperaggressive disease, or in short, HPD. Clinicians has no way to predict HPD before treatment start, and that's why it's unmet clinical need. And I will show you why. This is the case of HPD. After CT scan on top shows the patient after successful surgery and removal of cancer, and clinicians decide to prescribe checkpoint inhibitors immunotherapy to avoid relapsing of disease. Less than in 2 months, patient come back with pain in the stomach, and doctor was shocked to see CT scan on the bottom with a huge progression of cancer all over the body. Unfortunately, nothing could save this patient who shortly died after that meeting. This case represents the high risk of every patient facing nowadays undergoing immunotherapy. And in Acilia, we have a solution for that. We built safety molecular diagnostic to predict HPD in cancer patients before immunotherapy treatment start. And we are allowed to switch patient at risk to alternative treatment with better outcomes and actually savings. In US alone, at least 750,000 patients every year eligible for immunotherapy and 320,000 of them eligible for HPD diagnostics. With $3,500 price tag per diagnostic, well justified by health economic studies, we're targeting more than 1 billion market in US alone. We start with melanoma and lung cancer, but we already built AI-powered technology platform, which will allow us to scale our diagnostic to other indications and treatment types. With help of our technology, we already identified biomarkers and predictive signature for melanoma with accuracy, which is meeting clinical and FDA requirements, and we filed patent for the biomarkers for this scope. Our solution will be distributed via in vitro diagnostic vendors or CLIA labs with a large customer base and will be used by clinicians to select right treatment, plus pharma companies who will be using it to increase success rate of clinical trials. Importantly, we already have a global IVD vendor who is interested to build and distribute our solution in US and globally, plus pharma company who are interested to use our test in clinical trials. In addition, we onboarded 2 key opinion leaders in each indication, who is our principal investigators in clinical study we're running in 3 independent hospitals in Europe. We have an amazing team with a very unique and complementary skill set ranging in pharma, biomarker development, AI, and diagnostics. 2 founders have more than 30 years of experience and built 2 companies in this field before. In addition, being part of MassBio and JLabs, we are lucky to have mentors and advisors with extensive experience in diagnostic pharma, biotech, and FDA approval for CDX in oncology space. I'm super happy to share with you the recent results of our clinical study showing that our biomarkers holds well in 3 independent clinical trial data sets, confirming our research about HPD and de-risking our diagnostic development. We are looking to raise $1.5 million in exchange of 15% equity in order to build, validate, and start commercialization of LDT test. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be happy to answer your question together with my co-founder, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. All right, and that concludes our final presentation for today. The judges, when you're ready, I will put 5 minutes on the clock, and we will actually be going right into booth breakout rooms sessions immediately following this. And I will be announcing the winner of Capcon at 2:30 p.m. today. All right, our judges, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you. Louis, I think that thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Could you talk a little bit about your sales cycle and what that looks like and the amount of time it takes for you to close a sale, especially into the labs, and you identified 2 different types of customers for hospitals and then for pharma and biotech?
Yes, so definitely the life cycle of the sales is different because for the clinician facing diagnostic test, our main reimbursement mechanism is through the payers for whom we have worked a lot with them to develop the health economics, which justifies the price. And for the pharma, usually the sales cycles is between, let's say, 9 months to 1 year. to be able to enter a clinical trial at the phase 1 and POC type of trials. So basically the ones where the diagnostic help can help to stratify the patients before they entering pivotal trials like phase 3.
And
Thank you.
And Lewis, not to put you in a tight spot, but one of our other judges just had an emergency and had to drop off. So if you have any other questions, we would love to hear them. If not, we will finish for today. Thank you.
The last comes with your strategic vision for leveraging artificial intelligence and the data. How do you see that creating additional value for you throughout each one of your product development life cycles? And then central to your value proposition, where does that allow you to create additional product lines and services?
Brilliant question.
Yeah, that's a
go
great
ahead.
question.
Yeah.
So I can start here. So essentially, with every diagnostics being like available to the patient, we are gathering additional information in the form of the diagnostics itself via extended biomarker assay. Plus, we are also leveraging real-world evidence and clinical assessment information that we are gathering through the clinician-facing interface. And what it allows us, as we're scaling and starting gathering more and more information about specific patients, it allows us to obtain a lot more data about specific outcomes and drug post-market efficacy, which is typically unavailable purely in the trial. So by doing this, we will be able to know and understand better what type of the patient trajectories and histories will lead to the most successful types of treatments, what type of the patient stratification and patient, let's say, predictive capabilities of the diagnostics assay would lead to the better outcomes. So essentially, we envision it as some sort of like reinforcement, learning from the data as we're launching the products and as we're expanding the portfolio of the products into the market.
Yeah, first focus is obviously HPD and different indication, but then we can move beyond HPD diagnostic to other areas with this data.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Andre. That concludes our pitching for today. Judges, please mark your score sheet so we may make the final tally and determine which company will win the 4th Capcon. Congratulations and great work to all those who presented yesterday and today. Thank you so much for the incredible presenters and to our fabulous judges for their keen insight and questioning. All right, we are going to head actually into our organizer, Frank Aziz's speech. And then at around 2:30 p.m. today, I will announce the winner of Capcon. Frank Aziz was a civil engineering major in college, but decided to follow his passion of entrepreneurship after finishing his degree. Regarding commercialization, Frank has been in the top 1% of any company he's ever worked for, including companies that are close to $1 billion in revenue. His deep insight into monetizing a business has led him to focus primarily on branding, even with a strong sales background, as it is the best path to business growth. With over 20 million views on his LinkedIn content and a podcast with over 100,000 downloads, he has certainly built a name for himself interviewing successful, well-known business leaders. During the last 2 conferences, Frank Aziz has brought over 30 companies and 250 plus investors together to meet. All right, and I will hand the meeting over to Frank. Before I do that, I would like to just remind everyone that the booth breakout rooms are completely open for the companies you've seen today who have a breakout booth, as well as companies that presented yesterday, pre-revenue companies. We've got Dr. Deischer at Avium Biotechnology, Stephanie Latner at WeVibin, Phil and Tony at Discovery DX, as well as Jim Snow at Pensar Medical. Please feel free to head into the breakout rooms, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
All right. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're doing well. So I want to talk briefly, it's going to be very brief, regarding branding in healthcare. So what does branding solve? Just in any direction, whether it's an investor that wants to talk with the best companies or whether it's companies that want to talk to many investors. Branding, all branding solves, and another word for branding is reputation. All it solves is building trust. That's it. So the main component of a transaction that's made, regardless if it's an investor or client or whatever the case may be, the biggest component of somebody actually transacting with you is trust. That's the biggest component. You take out trust, you can't do anything else. You can be competent, you can be good at your job, you can be a lot of other things, but if there's no trust entailed, if people think you're not honest or whatever the case may be, they're not going to work with you. And so what does branding do? Branding essentially puts you, it's a one-to-many strategy in which you can gain trust with many, many people and get people reaching out to you consistently. And this will help you build your company. And I'm going to go into quickly what a few people have achieved through branding. So Peter Thiel says the main differentiation is brand, which is a weak form of monopoly, but it is real. I know in the medical device community, monopoly is a very bad word. Never use monopoly. It's a horrible word. However, with regards to competition, if you do branding the right way, you won't have competition. Okay, again, all branding is reputation. Think of anything you've ever done to build your reputation. And right now, for the first time in history, you can get a strong reputation through media free. If you just do this yourself, you can do it for free and build a strong reputation, and you will get investors. I'm going to go over a case study in just a bit. Okay. So I want you, look, we're not going to work with everyone, and we understand that. So what I want to do is I want to help you right now, whoever's listening, I want to help you not hire us. I want you to do everything yourself and build your reputation on your own through social media. And it's definitely possible. I'm just going to show you what it takes. Okay. So first of all, you need somebody to video. If you want to look professional, great. If not, okay too, you can do it on your phone. But on your phone or a professional video, you need a social media manager that's going to manage like influencers, talking with them, the healthcare space and things like that. Now, I understand that with regards to getting clientele, social media is not for the medical device community. Trust me, it's more of a digital health thing. Totally understand. But when it comes to attracting investors, putting out content not related to your industry, not related to anything, the only regulatory aspect of what you're doing is essentially your profile. People will come to your profile and they will reach out. You don't have to do any selling. You don't have to do any pitching. You don't have to make any claims, nothing. But you're going to need a social media manager. And that's somebody that's going to be able to kind of build relationships with influencers and things like that. You're also going to need somebody who's a writer and somebody that can, effectively communicate, aspects of your company, but also just in general, just emotional aspects of what people share online. And I'll go over that just in a bit. And you also want a business development person. This business development person is somebody that's going to help you develop relationships that help you scale when you commercialize. Or if you're in the stage where all you're looking for is investors, you're not really looking to you're still far away from commercializing. This is somebody you need to build strong relationships. And then you need an admin person that communicates all of these people, communicates with all these people. Okay. Okay, these are the places where you need to be, and I'm going to go over a really quick case study, and then we'll conclude with the winner of Capcon. Okay, so LinkedIn, podcasting, YouTube, and believe it or not, TikTok. People they don't like TikTok. They think it's silly, but I'm going to go over just a few things of why it's important. So the reason you want to be on these media channels, imagine like being on a huge media station like Fox News or things like that. Now, again, I know this is a very touchy subject with medical device community, company owners, but this is something that you need to really, really focus on in order to get your message out there. It's you are selling yourself to investors. It's not your company or your product. We had a talk with Adam just recently, and he said the investors really could care less really about the product. They're really more interested in what's your business acumen. Who are you as a person? Okay. And all you're doing is you're sharing you're doing essentially a personal brand. And these are the 4 platforms that you should be on. LinkedIn is really good. I've gotten 20 million views of my LinkedIn content. It doubled the size of my business because of the content I did. Anything that you're wanting to get. So if it doesn't matter if we're talking about clientele or we're talking about investors. If you want investors or if you want other investors to work with in your fund, putting out content is definitely going to help. Again, has no claims involved. And I know there's a lot of regulatory aspects around that, so I'm happy to have that discussion. But all you're doing is sharing things just personally about yourself. You're having conversations. Imagine like a good conversation that you had in the last week, and just record that and put that online. No claims whatsoever. All you're doing is sharing that conversation, getting people to like you a little bit, and then checking you out. And that's essentially what the goal is. Okay, podcasting. You can do a pitch. You can try to pitch. Most people won't give you 30 seconds to do a pitch, but they'll give you an hour to do a podcast with them. So I've literally, every speaker at my event, a lot of the investors that come to this event, I've done podcasts with them, and it helps build a relationship. Obviously, YouTube is important, and that's because there's the most users on YouTube. And then the last thing is TikTok. Now, TikTok and LinkedIn right now are probably very, very important platforms to be on. The reason for that is because you can post a piece of content about you and your family and literally get 1 million views on either platform. I did a post just recently, got 20,000 likes on the platform, and it really has nothing to do with my business, nothing at all to do with any claims about anything. All it has to do is I'm sharing a thought that most people agree with, and 20,000 likes later, I get people reaching out because they looked at my profile and they see what I do. Okay. Now, you can hire people through Upwork. There's the tool called Upwork that you can use to hire other people at a very minimal hourly rate to kind of facilitate this for you. You can also hire an internal staff. And if you want to do this for over a 6-month strategy, I'm going to tell you how much that's going to cost in a second, but I'm going to tell you about Case Tabs really quick. So Case Tabs is a company that we currently work with. They're the only healthcare company that we currently work with, and we're actually have about 5 in the pipeline that we're going to be working with. But this is when we were not focused on healthcare companies. We were focused mainly on just business entrepreneurs, and Case Tabs had all the objections you can possibly think of. So there was the CEO, Gavin, who graduated from Princeton. We had investors, also 5 investors that were part of their company. Everybody was against doing branding, except one person in the entire company. And this guy had a lot of clout because he was responsible, because it was a $10 million company, and he was literally responsible for like 8 of that $1 million, believe it or not, in commercialization value. His name was Mark Mealy. And when he approached the investors and Gavin, well, Gavin was the CEO. He was kind of open to it, but the investors were totally against doing anything on social media. They just thought it was ridiculous, and they have a healthcare company. So all the things that go into, what people think about, what that entails, regulations and things like that. They had all those objections. And so they thought, no, there's no way. This guy, he sees a 5-figure, he comes to my conference, right? He is a sales manager of this company. He's responsible for most of the revenue of the company. And I told him to implement what's called a $1.80 strategy, okay? Not only did we do that, we did a little bit of a lead generation strategy for them, but we told them to do what's called a $1.80 strategy. And this is leave your 2 cents on 90 different posts a day on LinkedIn or whatever platform you think is most relevant. Twitter, could be Twitter, where a lot of investors are engaged in. You leave 2 cents on 90 posts a day. That was one thing we told him to do. We were also doing some lead generation for them. And what he did at the conference, because he saw kind of what everything we did, we had such a great conference to put it together. We had a 5-figure number with regards to the services we provide. And this guy, instead of going to a CEO, he's at 300, 400K a year in revenue or in personal income from the company. He decided, I'm going to pull the trigger on a very high ticket item that represented a lot of his income, as a sales manager. Okay. And he did this $1.80 strategy. And we also helped him with a lot of other things as well within just with clientele, because they were already commercialized with hospitals and surgery centers. This is their platform, their communications platform. And within, I think it was around 60 to 75 days, they did $192,000 in revenue. At the 4-month mark, because of just this one simple strategy with a lot of other things, there was a few investors that reached out to him, and I didn't take it seriously initially, but he said, hey, we have a few investors that reached out because of some of the content we're posting on LinkedIn, as well as some of the lead generation we're doing on LinkedIn. Fast forward to a year and a half later, they have a $10 million company and they've gotten a $50 million valuation with a private equity firm. They're going to be bought out for $50 million. $50 million because of a LinkedIn private equity investor that reached out to them because of their content, and they're going to make 50. So when people look at this like 5-figure, 6-figure option to invest with our company, they're very hesitant to do anything because it's like, wow, we need money. We're trying to get money. Or with regards to anybody that's on this conference, there's always a hesitation. But if you think about this, Mark Mealy, who had to fight the investors because of the healthcare system, and we didn't have any healthcare clients as well. They've come to the stage where they're going to sell their company for $50 million because of one LinkedIn private equity firm that reached out to them. Okay. So I'll go past all this. Okay. So what I want you to do, guys, I'm gonna because we have to wrap this up in just a bit. What I want to do is, if you want to talk regarding any of our services, we can certainly talk about that. And I want you to go inside the chat and I want you to schedule a call. We'll also reach out to you after this event. Go ahead and click on that and you'll be able to schedule a call. I'm gonna go ahead and conclude this chat here. But thank you so much for coming to Capcon. We really, really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to conversing with all of you soon.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Everyone, I am going to put a 10-minute break in for people to access the booth breakout rooms. I would like to re-announce Jim Snow at Pensar Medical, Dr. Deischer at AVM Biotechnology, Stephanie Latner at WeVibin, Phil and Tony at Discovery DX, and at 2:40 promptly, I will announce the winner of Capcon. Thank you all so much for coming today. Please head to the breakout rooms and the booth sessions, and I'll see you back here at 2:40. And just as a reminder, if you are having any issues accessing the booth breakout rooms, please see the chat and you can message Amanda or Andrew from Capcon Tech for further questions. Thank you. Jim Snow, please report to your breakout room. If anyone from Stephanie Latner's team is here, Jackie Amster was just in the booth. Jackie Amster, I saw that you were in Stephanie's booth. Stephanie is now back in the booth. Thank you. Amanda, will you please send an announcement that I will be announcing the winner to everyone? Thank you. Thank you everyone for your patience. We will wait 30 more seconds and then I will announce the winners. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we will now get started. It has been an honor and a pleasure to MC for you all today. And it is also an honor and a pleasure to announce the winner of the 4th Capcon. I want to once again thank all the presenting teams for their valuable insight, presentation, and the judging sessions, as well as the speakers and judges that made the event such a success. Not to mention our incredible investors who all came to help this event grow. We look forward to having you again at our future conferences. We will also leave the booths open for an additional 15 minutes so you can have further networking time. All right, and without further ado, the winner of the 4th Capcon is Steve Wiley at Innovega Incorporated with their smart contact lenses and glasses. Congratulations, Steve. Speech. All right. Thank you, Steve. Wonderful work today and wonderful work, everyone. We wish you a wonderful rest of the day and look forward to having you join us in our next conference in 2021 or in person in 2025. Who knows? I've been Leah Lamar. It has been an honor to MC for you the last 2 days. I hope you all gained valuable information at Capcon. Thank you all for your participation. We appreciate your hard work and dedication to healthcare. Have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Again, I've been Leah Lamar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Leah, for your great help.
Thank you, Steve. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, the breakout rooms are still open. If anyone would like to hop into Jim Snow at Pensar Medical, Dr. Deisher at AVM Biotechnology, Stephanie Latner at WeVibin, Phil and Tony at Discovery DX. Thank you all.
John Black, are you in the room?
Hi, guys. Yes, I am.
Hi, John. Do you mind just reading the message I sent to you in your inbox, please?
Yes, I can. I apologize. I'm on another phone call right now, too, so I'm kind of multitasking.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hey, Amanda. Amanda, if you're there, we're just going to hold for 1 minute before we close.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. If you have not gotten contact information from anyone that you wanted to get contact information from, this is your last call. Please message them in the chat ASAP before we close the doors forever. Thank you. Okay, we are going to close the doors, so please speak up right now if you're still exchanging contact information. You've got 30 seconds to let me know if you need some more time. If not, we will be closing the room in 30 seconds. Thank you. Hey, Amanda.
Yes, Leah.
We will close the conference in 5 seconds since no one spoke up.
5, 4,
3, 2.
2, 1.
Bye,
Thank you. Good night.